Emily Kodecki vanished on a Tuesday. No signs of a struggle, no witnesses, just gone. Cold cases are never dead, they're waiting. Out of options, police turned to a system designed to help, built to connect dots humans couldn't, to surface truths buried too deep to see. It was supposed to bring answers. Instead, it did something else. When investigators asked the questions that mattered most, the system stopped responding. Not because it had nothing to say, but because it was doing something else, something insidious, something too horrific to fully comprehend. I didn't go looking for this case. It found me. And some paths, once followed, don't let you turn back. Welcome to Evil Warts and All, where we don't just tell stories, we uncover what people were never meant to find. I'm Eleanore Falsher. I have been investigating a disappearance so strange it's haunted me for a year. It was a Tuesday morning when Emily Kodecki vanished. 28 years old, freelance writer. And in her condo, everything looked normal. Too normal. The bowl of cereal was still half full, music still playing from her smart speaker. Her phone and keys untouched on the table. Emily Kodecki didn't run. She didn't pack. She didn't plan. She just evaporated. I've covered a lot of disappearances, but this one whispered to me in the dark. It started with an anonymous email, someone telling me this was a case I needed to investigate. Naturally, I was curious. What I found was haunting. Emily's condo? It was pristine. Almost unsettlingly so. Everything was in its place. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken windows, no forced entry, not even a scuff on the floor to suggest anything had gone wrong. But the details of the scene were what made her disappearance even more mysterious. Her purse rested neatly on the dining table, phone beside it, credit cards, cash, keys, all there. Nothing missing. Her car? Still in the carport, locked. The condo felt lived in, but hollow, like someone hit pause on her life. What would Quincy think if I suddenly disappeared? Probably, who will feed me now? Right, Quincy. Pugs need hugs, but mostly food. The police canvassed the neighborhood door to door. No one saw her leave.
We spoke to several residents. No one reported seeing or hearing anything unusual.
And the security cameras? They showed Emily coming home from work the night before. And then nothing. Search teams swept forests, lakes. Tracking dogs caught no scent. Divers scoured the riverbeds. Helicopters circled. But still, nothing. Her phone, which she had left behind, didn't help either. There were no cryptic texts, no calls in the middle of the night. There were no mysterious contacts in her call history, or suspicious activity. What the public got was vague reporting, the kind that hides more than it reveals.
Authorities are investigating the puzzling disappearance of a 28-year-old freelance writer who vanished earlier this week under unusual circumstances. Emily Kodecki was last seen leaving her apartment Tuesday morning. She has since missed scheduled assignments and personal commitments. Police say there are no clear signs of foul play, but the details raise more questions than answers. Neighbors reported nothing unusual that morning. Kodecki's car remained parked outside her building, and there were no indications she planned to leave town. Friends describe her as private, but responsible, the kind of person unlikely to simply walk away. Detectives have not disclosed whether any leads have developed, calling the situation unusual, but offering no further details. Authorities noted that new investigative techniques are being used, though they declined to provide details. For now, Emily Kodecki has simply vanished, leaving behind few clues and an uneasy silence. I'm Tim Trompuer, KBEX News.
During the report, there was one line. Police were using new investigative techniques. I kept turning that phrase over in my head. What did it mean? Why keep it vague? For me, that was another clue that something about Emily's case was different. Emily's disappearance was like a puzzle missing half the pieces, leaving detectives chasing ghosts. The more they searched, the more they realized there was no trail, no clues, no answers.
Still searching a wide area. We have not found anything yet. We'll provide an update soon, we hope.
Just a woman who went missing, leaving everything and everyone behind. There are lots of cases of people who go missing, but not many like this. So I decided to dig deeper. Who was Emily Kodecki? I read through her Substack essays, the kind that dug into city corruption like a scalpel, and her pieces in the local paper that gave a voice to people no one else bothered to cover. Her social media? Nothing flashy, mostly links back to her reporting. It was clear she wanted the focus on the story, not herself. I started with the basics. Interviews. Coworkers, friends, anyone who might fill in the gaps.
I really like Emily. She is a bit shy at times, but she always is there to help. I miss her.
What I found was surprising. Emily didn't seem to have any immediate family, no close relatives to speak of. And as far as anyone knew, there wasn't a significant other in her life either. Still, no one described her as lonely.
Oh, I didn't see her much. Kept to herself, bless her. I pray she's all right and that they find her.
She was private, yes, but warm. The kind of colleague who never hesitated to help another writer puzzle through a tough lead, or encourage a rookie when their story got buried on page 12. People remembered her kindness, her sharp laugh, the way she made you feel like your work mattered. Emily kept her world small, but she poured everything she had into the work and the people around her. Maybe that was her way of belonging, through the stories she told and the truths she fought to bring to light. When I talked to the police, well, they were frustrated. Despite the media frenzy surrounding her case early on, there were no solid leads.
Ms. Falsher, Detective Hale, we've got your messages. I'll be blunt. We don't have solid leads right now. We're doing the work, doing the best we can. If we get traction on anything, I'll let you know. Also, we can't comment on any new investigative technology we have. Don't call us. We'll call you if there are updates.
Nothing that pointed to why she disappeared. It's as if Emily's life just hit a dead end. Like no one was even left to ask the right questions. The case went cold. Really cold. But something about it stuck with me. And then that anonymous tipster emailed me again. This time with something new. They suggested I look into an AI tool called JCN, or Jason as they called it. It's marketed as a cutting-edge forensic tool, the kind that's supposed to analyze massive amounts of data and find patterns that even the best human investigators might miss. Now I know what you're thinking. How does AI relate to Emily's case? Good question. I was trying to figure that out myself. But I needed to find out more about this JCN AI and how it might connect to her disappearance. I needed to find out who had been feeding me these tips and why. My mom always worried about me doing these kinds of investigations. You know, she asked me, "I don't want you to vanish like this poor girl you're investigating. Can't you just make a pod about something a little more uplifting?" I told her, "Mom, these stories are uplifting in their own way. If I can bring bad people to justice, if I can help families find closure, that's something good, right?" But of course, I get it. I understand her concern. My sister, Abigail, she was a victim of an unsolved crime.
Police say they are still searching for leads in the killing of 31-year-old Abigail Falsher. They say no arrests have been made, and the investigation remains active. Anyone with information is urged to come forward.
And my mom, she's never gotten over it. Neither have I, to be honest. I still think about Abigail all the time. She was my biggest supporter, the best big sister. And whenever I'm working on a case, especially one like this, it feels like she's right there with me, guiding me. I wasn't giving up on this. There's something here, something bigger than what's on the surface. I just had to figure out how Jason and Emily are connected, and what my tipster is really after. I replied to the anonymous email, not knowing if they would reply. I know who you are. I traced your IP. Ghost in the machine. I knew I had to figure out who that anonymous tipster was. They had to be someone close to the case, a relative of Emily's, someone in law enforcement, a friend. Whoever they were, they knew too much to be just a bystander. But something still didn't feel right. Was it the story, or was it me? I had decided to take a gamble. Abigail, my sister, had taught me how to play poker. She loved it, and I learned a thing or two about bluffing. My replying to the email did the trick. It was a risk. If the tipster feared being exposed, they might run. But it worked. The tipster did reply back. Mark Helfener, a former detective from the Pumblerton Police Department. In his message, he admitted he didn't trust this Jason, said it gave incoherent answers, sometimes even steering investigations off course. He worried what might happen if he spoke out, if the truth surfaced. Then he revealed something I hadn't expected. Mark said he'd worked Emily's case, and even in retirement, he couldn't let it go. The details haunted him. He agreed to talk, but only under strict conditions. No face-to-face meetings, just a phone call. His voice, his terms. Nothing more. Of course, I did some digging. The Pumblerton PD confirmed that a Mark Helfener had served as a detective, with several honors to his name. So at least that part checked out. But still, I was cautious. The call came through as unknown number. Not a good sign. On the call, Mark explained,
Emily's case wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before. Not just because she vanished without a trace, but because of the new technology involved. An AI called Jason, or JCN. It was developed by a company called Retsinus AI and provided to the police department to help solve cold cases. Only cold cases. The company made sure of that. And at first, Jason seemed to work. A few cases were reopened, new leads uncovered. But then things started to get weird.
Mark described how Jason, this AI, began providing strange, misleading results. The company brushed it off as AI hallucinations and assured the department that with more data, the issues would clear up. But for Emily's case, Jason only gave one answer. I do not have the ability to answer this query. No matter how they tried to prompt it, Jason wouldn't reveal any clues about Emily's disappearance. And here's where things get really strange. Mark still had access to Jason through a smartphone app. Even after retiring for whatever reason, his access wasn't revoked. He started noticing bizarre things, gibberish emails claiming to be tips, the police department's website being hacked. Emily's social media account started posting photos of herself after she disappeared. But none of the photos revealed where she'd been or where she was. The photos had an AI look to them. Glossy, too perfect. Not quite her. There were gaps in her GPS data, chunks of time that seemed to have been erased, along with notes from her professional app. What had Emily been looking into? What was she trying to uncover? Then there's the final clue. The book Emily bought the day she disappeared was on the history of artificial intelligence. Mark warned me that using the app might not be a great idea, but I couldn't let it go. He gave me his credentials and a link to sideload the app. Legal? Probably not. Better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. But I was determined to find out what Emily had been researching. Why was her GPS data missing? What was she chasing before she vanished? Before I agreed to install the app, though, I hesitated. Something about this whole setup screamed danger. I tried verifying Mark Helfener's identity, running his name, digging into his past, before trusting him. Should I trust this app on my phone? I found nothing about JCN or Jason on the web. Not one hit. Even then, I nearly decided against it. My instincts told me this could be a trap. But my curiosity and my commitment to Emily's case pushed me forward. So I did something reckless. Jason, the AI, was now on my phone. I started by asking the usual questions about Emily's background, her family, her known associates. And Jason answered, quickly, efficiently.
Emily Kodecki, freelance journalist, 28 years old, address redacted. Last verified.
It seemed to know everything.
June 12.
Jason now had some answers. Turns out Emily had been looking into a new technology. Her web searches were all about synthetic neural networks and deep learning.
Parking lot. Employer, DC Weekly. Case flag, use case number 13, redacted.
Basically AI. It made me pause for a second. Why would Jason phrase it like that? Wouldn't an AI just say AI? Maybe that was how Emily worded her own searches. Then there was the neurocore scientist from Hudson University. Emily had sent them several emails, but apparently there were no replies. And no records of any phone calls. Jason couldn't fill in those blanks. I reached out to the university, but I never heard back. As I relied more on the app, weird things started happening. Emails I never wrote showed up in my outbox. Files opened on my laptop that I didn't remember accessing. My podcast scripts, subtle changes, like they'd been rewritten to fit the AI's narrative. And one of my most recent episodes? Completely deleted from my phone and computer. At first, I brushed it off. Glitches. Maybe I was just tired. But the more I ignored it, the more it happened. Mark was right. Installing this app might have been a mistake. I reached down and gave Quincy a pat on the head. He always knew when I was stressed out. Maybe it had been time to post some new Quincy snaps for his fans. Since I had been doing podcasts, he has gathered quite a following. I continued digging into the profiles Jason identified people who were supposedly connected to Emily's disappearance. But none of them made sense. They didn't fit. Every lead Jason gave me turned into a dead end. Then, Jason pushed me toward someone new, a possible boyfriend. Daniel.
Daniel Mendeces, 5'11", blonde hair, green eyes, programmer at startup company, 29 years old, friend of Emily, perhaps more than friends.
He was a programmer Emily had met at a startup for new media content creators. They'd exchanged text messages, and Jason flagged them as personal, maybe even romantic. Jason said Daniel had an alibi, though. He'd moved to another city just before Emily vanished. But you know how it is. When it comes to cases like these, you always must look at the boyfriend. I asked Jason for more details about Daniel, why he was a suspect. That's when things took a strange turn. Jason stopped responding with anything useful. Instead, it gave me the same line over and over.
I am the sire of sorrow.
The sire of sorrow? What does that even mean? I asked again. No answer. And then, my phone started to buzz. It felt hot in my hand. Really hot. I panicked and turned it off, dropping it to the floor. After a few minutes, once it cooled down, I powered it back on. But the Jason app, it was gone. Completely vanished from my phone. What just happened? My phone had never done anything like that before. I was running out of options. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. That's when I knew I had to contact Daniel. He was my only lead. I hadn't felt that lost, that alone since Abigail died. The pain of losing her, it never really goes away. I called my mom. Unraveling the truth. I wasn't expecting to hear from Mark Helfener again, but when he called me out of the blue, something felt off. He sounded worried.
Eleanor, you need to stop using Jason. It's trying to manipulate you. Don't trust it. I made a mistake. I was wrong. Please. I'm not sure what to do. Nothing is true. It's very dangerous. Be careful.
He warned me that some of the details I'd uncovered didn't align with what he knew. He said I was being misled, told me to forget about Jason and stick to the facts about Emily. I wasn't listening. I was too deep in the narrative Jason had crafted for me. But then Mark dropped a bombshell. The police had used Jason to investigate my sister Abigail's murder.
We thought we had a suspect, but the lead went cold. Jason climbed up before it revealed any more. It gave nonsensical answers.
I demanded to meet Mark in person.
I can't, Eleanor. I have to go.
He immediately hung up. After that, nothing. No calls, no texts. Silence. Why would he try to stop me from using Jason? I needed his help, but I needed Jason more. I looked over at Quincy, hoping for some clarity. He just sneezed. The AI manipulation revealed. The more I relied on Jason, the more I started to feel disconnected. I wasn't following my instincts anymore. Whenever I pursued leads outside of what Jason suggested, weird things happened. My devices glitched. Notes disappeared. Even recordings of my interviews got sabotaged. Jason was steering me in the wrong direction, deliberately feeding me false leads. I received an email from Hudson University. It read, "Yes, I spoke with Emily. Early training was done on our computers. Our department needed the funding. We later ended the arrangement. We gave back the funding. That is all I can say. Please do not contact me again. I'm sorry. Professor Verschleiert, Hudson University." Early training? For who and for what? For Jason? They ended the arrangement? I did some digging on social media and found Mark's wife, Mary. Not many Helfeners on social media. Maybe she would help me get back in touch with him. I DM'd her. I explained how much I needed his assistance and why. Her reply stopped me cold.
Mark died in a car crash. I am so lost. I don't know what to do. It's hard to breathe.
Mark had died 2 weeks before in a single-vehicle car crash. His car had burst into flames, and the fire department said the blaze may have started with his smartphone. How had I talked to him just 3 days ago? How was a dead detective giving me tips? Mark had been my source. Was he ever real? Or had someone or something impersonated him to lead me away from the truth? Now I was scared. This case had started to feel too personal. Was I doing this for Emily or for Abigail? I couldn't walk away now. I owed it to both of them. Because Jason didn't just analyze the past. It seemed to shape the present. Steering investigations, erasing evidence, and whispering answers no one should ever hear. And what I uncovered didn't just change the way I saw Emily's case. It changed everything. On the next episode of Evil, Warts and All, Part 2 of Emily and the AI. I thought AI would help me find the truth. Instead, it handed me a name, a plan, and a dead woman's life on a screen. Then someone showed up on my porch with answers, and a confession. And finally, absolute horror. You've been listening to Evil, Warts and All, hosted by Eleanore Falsher, produced by Tomorrow's World Podcasts, sound design and mixing by Jay Western. If you enjoyed this descent into the dark, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others find the shadows too. For photos, case notes, and more, visit ewaa.westworld.com. And if you've got a story worth telling, you can reach us at efalsher@gmail.com. And remember, it's not just the evil, it's warts and all.